Hi, this is Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today's Fountain Pen Showdown is between two vacuum filling Chinese pens. The first one is this is the Wingsung 699 in transparent brown. And then the second pen is this one. This is a PenBBS 456 in the cloud colour. Join me down on the mat, we'll take a look at these pens, we'll do some writing samples and then we'll give them a rating. So here we are down on the mat, time to take a look at the first pen. So this is the Wingsung 699. It comes in this gorgeous transparent brown colour. This cost me 38 Aussie dollars, so it's not cheap but it's not overly expensive either. As I said, it's a vacuum filler. Now obviously there's ink in there at the moment, not a lot, but there is ink in there, so I can't show you it working. But essentially what you do is you unscrew this cap, you then pull it out, which pulls out this plunger. You push the plunger back in, and what it does is as it's going down to about here, it's pushing the air out, but it's creating a vacuum behind it. Once we get down to here, inside the barrel you can see, hopefully, that it widens out a little bit, and then that releases this vacuum, which then draws the ink up and into the barrel. Quite an ingenious method. Works really well with some exceptions. So the first one is, obviously when you put this down, you're pushing down a little plunger inside here which seals off the section from the body. Really good idea, especially if you're travelling, because if there's a leak you're not going to get all this ink coming out, you'll just have what's in the section. But what I forget to do is I forget to release this top cap. Another issue that I found with this and with the other pen, the plunger doesn't always seem to release, so what I also do is I just gently ease it out a bit, and that then helps the ink to flow. Let's take a look at the pen itself. So we start up here with the top. So here we've got a nice dome end. We've got really, it's that cigar shaped type pen. This is in solid black. We come down to a gold coloured clip. If I go to the clip, really nice and springy. Love that springiness on there. The cap, it tapers, so we're tapering out until we get to about here, then it seems to go straight. And we're coming down to this gold band. Oh, well, not gold. I wish it was, don't we all? This gold coloured band. Here we've got Wingsung, and we've got the model 699. I'll just slowly turn that around. Got made in China there on the back. Then we come back to the Wingsung. From the band, we're still on the cap. It starts to taper down a little tiny bit, and then we've got a bit of a step down to the body. Once we hit the body, it's straight all the way down, constant width all the way down until we get to here. So again, there's another gold coloured band. Then we've got that released cap at the end, and again that's just black plastic. Now, one of the things I found with this cap here, it's so easy to unscrew the cap off the plunger. So quite often I'm having to reattach that. It's not a major problem, you know, it takes a second to put it on, but just be aware you could end up unscrewing that, and then, you know, worst comes to worst, you could lose it, which you wouldn't want to do that. So it's just something to be aware of. It's a nice pen, feels really nice in the hand. Let's take off the cap. So we go half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. So 2.5 turns to take that cap off. Personally, I think that's a bit excessive, but each to their own. Let's take a look at the business end now. Let's take a look at the nib. So here we have a two-tone nib. Predominantly it's gold coloured, and then it's got that silver coloured inlay. This is a steel nib. It's not a gold nib. There's some engraving there. The nib looks to me like it's a number 6 size nib. So one of the things I'll be interested with this, and we'll come to this in the writing sample, can I change the nib? Can I put in a different number 6 nib? I haven't looked into it too much because I've had to work with what I've got and I don't have any spare nibs which I would be able to put in anyway. But that's something I'm going to look at in the future. So there may be another video about this coming up, maybe to do with me swapping that nib. We come to the section. So the section is this same transparent brown, as you can see with the body. And to be honest, it's not overly long. You know, some pens I've got really long sections. This one's not too bad. We've got a slight dip. The lip here isn't very pronounced. I find it really comfortable to hold. We slightly dip down, then we're coming back out again till we get to this gold coloured band. Then we've got the threads. The threads are really smooth. They're not sharp. You wouldn't even know they're there. Let's take a look at the pen in the hand. For me, this is nice. It's not too heavy. It's not too light. It's not too long. Does it post? Yep, it posts, and it's really secure. And I've got to be honest, posted, it's really nice to use. Now, I'm not normally a person who uses a posted pen, but this one, I try to do that all the time because it adds a little bit of length, but not without adding much weight. So, yeah, that's really nice. Now, throw the cap around. So we'll pop this down here again, just for one last look. So this is the Wingsung 699. So what's it shooting off against? Well, it's shooting off against this pen. It's a PenBBS 456 in the cloud pattern. Now, I'm going to be really open here. I love the looks of this pen. It is absolutely gorgeous to look at. It's semi-translucent, so here you can actually see the ink, but it's not really in your face, but it just adds to the colour. I mean, I've got a nice aquamarine colour ink, which I'll show you in a little bit, but to me, it just adds so much to the looks of this pen. The pen isn't as long. I will do some measurements shortly. To me, as I say, the looks are what really separate this pen. But I would expect that because this pen was 57 Australian dollars. So that means it's $19 more than the Wingsung. It's also a vacuum filler, so the filling system works exactly the same. You unscrew the blind cap and then draw it out, fill it in. You can't see it as well here because of the pattern, but it works exactly the same way. And I've got exactly the same issues. So the issues may be with me as opposed to the pens. Maybe I need to spend more time getting used to using vacuum fillers. I keep forgetting to unscrew this. And also I find that occasionally I do need to pull this out slightly to release the seal down at the bottom. I don't have to do that as often with this pen, so that's just, again, something to be aware of. So let's take a look at the body. So we start off here, we've got a flat top. Remember with that Wingsung, that top, it was domed, here it's flat. We then have, quite a big tapering up to this silver coloured clip. The clip on this, it's very, very stiff, unlike the other pen. But you don't go around flicking like this anyway, do you? You use that to put over your shirt pocket or over your bag loop. On both of those, it works really well. So it's really usable. If we take a look at the cap, well, again, we've got a very slight tapering of the cap up to about here, which is a very similar place as on the 699. And then we go straight. This time we're going straight into this silver coloured ring. So what have we got on here? Shanghai PenBBS. And 456, which is the model number. The silver clip, it actually tapers down itself to the body. There is a very slight step, nowhere near as big as on the 699, but again there's one there, so you can feel that. Then that comes into this gorgeous, I can't say how much I love the colour of this, and I don't know if you can see the ink moving it within there, but that really, I'm just going to spin this around. The looks of this pen are really what does it for me. Really is. And I'm glad that I got the cloud pattern. I did look at some of the other patterns that they have in the 456, but I went for this and yeah, so nice. So anyway, on this one, I actually see a bit of a tapering down of the barrel. We come again until we get to this silver end cap. And then we've got this here, which is what is used to drive that filling mechanism. And again, this one is flat. So very different style, very different looks. The 699, let me just fetch the 699 in so we can actually look at these side by side. And let's just compare the looks. Let's move these up a bit. There we go, now we've got a better view. So with the 699, well, to me that resembles a pen from Japan, which most people will know. When I look at this, I don't have the Japanese version, but looking at pictures, they look virtually identical to me. Body-wise, again, it looks like a Japanese pen, or it certainly reminds me of one, but they don't have these colours, whereas the 699, it looks like the exact same colour as well. Can you see why this cloud is so much nicer? You know, look at this. I'm just going to turn both of them on the side. This, yes, it's nice, it's transparent, but it's boring. It's the same colour all the way around. You know, let's just, there we go. Let's go all the way around. This one, wow, I love this. You know, it really draws the eye. And yes, the key thing that we want with a pen is how well does it write, because that's really what we're after is writing. But how well does it look? Well, that should also be brought into mind. So let's get that 699 out of the way again. Let's continue with this. So the cap, that's half, that's 1, 1 1/4. 1 1/2 turns, so much better than on that 699. I think 1 1/2 is just about right. So we take that off, and what do we have? So this, as I say, it's a standard PenBBS nib. In fact, it's so much standard that it's not actually the one that came with the pen. The one that came with the pen, I had terrible problems with writing. It's the first bad PenBBS nib I've had, and all I did is I swapped the nib with another PenBBS pen. And guess what? They all fit, they're standard. That's the beauty of it. Change the nib, writes like a dream. But that's what I expect from PenBBS anyway. Apart from this one, I've never had an issue with a PenBBS nib. From the nib, we come down into the section. I would say the section's about the same size as the 699. It looks longer because it's a shorter pen. We've got that lip at the end. This one, the lip, to me, I do feel it when I'm writing. I hold my pen really low down and I do feel that digging slightly into my finger when I'm writing. Not enough to put me off, but it's enough that I know it's there. So we come down the nib, so it tapers in and then tapers out, a bit like an hourglass type shape. That resin, well, look at that, it matches. It's the little details which make the difference. Then we come to the silver clip here. This, I can feel it. I couldn't feel these on the 699, but certainly on here I can. I think it's because on here they're metal, whereas on the 699 they were just really part of the plastic. What's this pen like to hold? To me, it's a little bit shorter, but again, I don't mind it. It's not enough to put me off. Does it post? Absolutely, it posts. It's quite secure. And this time I feel this makes the pen feel a lot heavier. So I tend to use this one unposted because I don't like the extra weight that adding the cap gives to it. So there we go. That's showing that off again. As I say, beautiful colour. What I'm going to do is do some measurements. So I'm going to fetch in my trusty rule. There we go. So we're going to start with the Wingsung 699. So let's do some measurements. So with the cap on, that comes in at 14.99 centimetres, so fairly long. If we take the cap off, it's 13.2 centimetres. Posted is about 17 centimetres, so again, fairly long. The width of the body here, well, that is 1.28 centimetres. The width of the cap is 1.49 centimetres. And the section, as I said, it's a bit like an hourglass. At its narrowest point here in the middle is 1.06 centimetres. And the widest, that's 1.14 centimetres. So not a small pen, feels fairly light. We'll look at the weights in a minute. With a PenBBS, let's fetch that one in. So with this one, we've got a length of 14.5 centimetres. Uncapped, it's 12.9 centimetres. Posted, there we go. Posted is 15.9 centimetres. The body at its widest, which is about here, that is 1.32 centimetres. The cap is 1.47 centimetres. And our width of the section at the shortest part here, that's 1.01, and at the widest is 1.11. So definitely a thinner pen than the Wing Sung. So I'll quickly fetch both pens back in. So with the weights, I would normally show you the scales, but unfortunately the battery's flat and it's a type of battery that I don't have that particular size. I've got virtually every other size known to man, but that one. So unfortunately, I'll just read off my list what the weights were. So for the Wing Sung 699, its weight was 30 grams and the cap alone was 10 grams. For the PenBBS, its weight was 31 grams and the cap was 11 grams. So surprisingly, the smaller pen is heavier, which I've got to be honest was surprising because in the hand, well, yeah, you can feel it, but we're only talking about 1 gram difference, so it's not a lot, but it is there. Let's take these caps off again. I don't normally do this, but I'm thinking because I've got them both on it. So here we are. Can you see what I was saying? Where the caps come off. So I have to just reattach that gently. As I say, I normally wouldn't put the pens side by side like this with the caps off, but I thought, well, might as well since they're both on there. Of the two, I've got to be honest, I like the look of the Wing Sung. To me, that two-tone looks so much nicer. This silver colour one, yeah, it's just plain. They're both roughly the same size, so I think they're both a number 6. So that might be something I might try, is actually putting a PenBBS nib into my Wing Sung, but for this video, that's outside of the scope of what I want to look at. So what I'm going to do now, let's put these to one side, and it's time to do a writing sample. For my writing sample, I'm going to be using my optic paper from Oxford. Nice fountain pen friendly paper, and this is the paper I try to use whenever I'm doing these videos, just so I'm using a consistent type of paper. When I'm doing my testing before the video, I do like to try the pens out on a number of different papers because different papers do behave differently, but for a consistent video I use this same one. So the first pen we're going to look at is going to be that Wing Sung 699. The ink that I've got in here is Robert Oster Caffe Crema. To me, this is just a gorgeous, a light brown. It's not a really dark in your face one. I do have a number of those, and I haven't actually tried one of those in this pen. I may give that a bash, but I love this colour of this ink. And in this pen, when it writes, wow, it looks so nice. So let's pop that to one side. Let's get on with that writing. I know I can hear you all shouting at me. Gary, let's see it right. So this is a Wing Sung 699, and it's got a medium nib. The ink, Robert Oster Caffe Crema. Now on here, that looks really nice. You can see some nice shading coming through. You know, you've got, look at the you've got the dark at the top and the pale at the bottom. The whole word cafe, really nice. And on certain papers, I do see some really nice writing coming through with this. But on others, this pen is an absolute nightmare. This is some Fontaine paper. Now, you've got both samples for writing on here. Look at this. You know, I had hard starts. I've only written one sentence, but even there, I've had to go over a number of the words a couple of times because, to be quite honest, on Fontaine, this pen writes atrociously. I've got here a really cheap notepad. I mean, by cheap, it was like something like $2 Australian for a pack of 3. Really cheap paper. It's not coated. It feels rough. On here, when I write, it generally does start out really nice, but then by the time I get down to the letter J here, I get a bit of skipping coming in. You know, and you can see we've got letters skipping. Look at the line of X's. It's not a nice nib to write with. I have tried taking some micro mesh to it. I have tried smoothing it off a little bit. I've tried flossing the tines. I just think there's something about the nib, and I'm going to work on it a bit more. As I say, I may look at replacing the nib, but I just don't have any spare ones laying around at the moment. So we've talked about the nib, let's look at drying times. So this is immediate, you know, moderately wet. 5 seconds. You know, that's drying fairly quick. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. Well, still got some wetness in there. 30 seconds. So I'm going to apologise because for some reason my audio recording stopped. So I've had to fall back to the original audio for part of this, but I've now come back and I've got the mic running again. So we're now going to wait for 1 minute. After a minute, we've still got a little bit of wetness coming off here. So yeah, not the fastest drying pen and ink combination that I have. For my next writing sample, I'm going to move the mic as close to the paper as I can so you can hear me writing. When the pen writes, it's nice and smooth. Really is nice to hold. It writes nicely. The problem is it's not consistent. In my tests here on this video, it's worked fine. But when I've done it in real life, when I've been doing my testing, as I said, I've had those awful experiences. So that will, when I come to do my rating, that's got to really play into it because the pen is there to enable me to get ideas out of my head and onto paper. And if the pen doesn't write consistently, what use is it? But anyway, let's move on and let's look at the PenBBS one. So here we have that PenBBS 456. Have I mentioned how nice it looks? I may have done once or twice. First thing I'm going to do before I even do anything else, I'm going to release the valve because, as I said, I'm forever forgetting to do that, and when a pen stops writing I start cursing it and then realise no, that was something that Carrie did. I'm just going to move the paper up a bit so we can get the writing on here. Let's look at the ink. So the ink here, I said, is a really nice, like aquamarine type colour. It's by Diamine and it's Aqua Lagoon. Now this isn't the first ink I've had in this pen. I've also had Diamine Merlot, which is a fairly dark red colour, and I didn't see any staining. Now that Merlot was in here for, I want to say, about a month, and there was no staining. One of the things I found with the Merlot is it was awful at writing, and again I tried micromeshing it, and the more I tried working on it, the actual worse it got. I mean, it really was atrociously bad at one stage. That's why I put this one in, and I was getting the same atrocious writing. It was catching on the paper, it was really rough, it would skip, it would hard start, it was just really, it was horrible. I swapped the PenBBS nib, as I said earlier, with one from another PenBBS pen I've got. So it's still PenBBS nibs, and it was chalk and cheese. So it was definitely that one particular nib. It was just a really bad one, which again, while I'm talking about the Wing Sun, I want to try a different nib in there because we can't always blame the pen. It could just be a one-off bad nib. But let's get on with our writing for this. So we have got here a PenBBS 456. This looks to me and writes as a medium. The ink, Diamine, Aqua Lagoon. I love the colour of this ink, especially in this pen. I mean, as you can see here, you can see the ink through the white, but because it's not transparent, it gives this really gorgeous looking colour. This pen is really nice to write with. Let's look at our drying times. So this is immediate. Let's wait for 5 seconds. Now 10 seconds. That's still a little bit wet, but nowhere near as wet as the Wing Sun's was. 30 seconds. Well, I must try. I'm going to leave it now for 1 minute. You know, there, after a minute, that's lovely and dry. So not an overly fast drying pen, but fast enough that you could use it if you're taking notes. So for my next writing sample, I'm going to reposition the mic so you can hear the pen writing again. So that writes like I would expect any PenBBS nib to. It's a little bit of scratchiness coming through. It's nice and smooth. Works really well on Clairefontaine paper, as we can see here. Yes, I know it's only a sentence that was written, but it shows that it writes. I've just gone back through my notes to some of my testing. So here's some of my testing pages for this one. You know, I've written there 2 pages, no problems. Beautiful pen, beautiful ink. So let me clear this off, fetch both pens in, then we'll wrap up and come up with our rating. So what do I think of these pens? Well, in general, I like both of them, but they have some issues. The first one is, with both, I have the same problem of working with that vacuumatic filling system. I find it hard to remember to unscrew these caps, and I also find that quite often I can get ink starvation in both of them, but more so in the Wingsung 699. When writing, this is really nice and smooth, whereas this one, it's a bit more scratchy. The problem is, as I said, the 699, it doesn't write all the time. You know, I would say in my testing, maybe 80% of my writing was interrupted by problems with this pen. Whereas once I'd swapped the nib on the PenBBS when I was writing, it wrote consistently, it wrote well, it wrote nicely. They both feel a bit light in the hand, but that's to be expected from the material that they're made of. So let's now move into ratings. So with my ratings, we'll start with pen looks. So this one, it looks nice. It's got that classic shape. I do like the transparency of the barrel. You know, you can see the ink in there, but you can't really see the colour, where you can a little bit through this one. So in terms of pen looks for the 699, well, I'm going to give that 9 out of 10. For the PenBBS, wow, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. I cannot say how much I like this pen because it's just so nice. Writing experience. Well, I'm going to be really generous here, and I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10 because when it does work, it's nice. So the 699, 7 out of 10. For the PenBBS, well, it's a bit scratchy. So again, that's got to impact the mark, but it writes consistent. So I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. Ink flow. I've said it time and again, I have had so many problems with this pen. I'm going to be really generous because when it does write, when the ink is flowing, it's nice. So I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10 again, but really disappointed by it. But that could be an issue with the nib. As I say, I need to get hold of another nib to swap in. With the PenBBS, again, it's scratchy. I do have some little bits of issues where the seal here doesn't quite release when I release the top. So sometimes I do get a bit of ink starvation. Got to impact it, so again, got to give it an 8 out of 10. Value for money. So this is the interesting one. As I said, this was $38 Aussie. Not inexpensive, but not cheap. But I've got to bear in mind the issues I had when I was writing with it. So again, it has to impact that. So this one, I can only give it a 7 out of 10 again. With the PenBBS, it is $19 more. So it's a lot more money, but it's a nicer writer, you know, it lets me do what I want. So value for money, because it's that bit more money, you know, I can get a TWSBI Eco for cheaper. I can get a Pilot Metropolitan for a lot cheaper. I've got to bear that in mind when I'm coming up with my number. So I'm only going to give this one an 8 out of 10. So that gives me total scores for the Wingsung 699 of 7.5 out of 10. For the PenBBS 456, well, that comes out with 8.5 out of 10. So that's this week's winner. My personal thoughts on these, they're nice pens. This Wingsung, it's just so frustrating because I want to like it. I just find if it doesn't let me write, what's the point? So I'm disappointed with that. Going to still keep going because I actually like the shape of the pen. I like the size of the pen. I like it when it writes. It's just the lack of consistency. That's the biggest issue I have with it. with a PenBBS. It looks so nice. It's a pen I'd like to take out with me. It writes so nicely. Still got that issue though with the plunger, but that's a small one. So that is my wrap up and my look at these two pens. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Do you have either of these pens? How would you rate them? Do you have similar thoughts or do you have different thoughts? Please drop a comment below. Let's kickstart the conversation so we can further explore these pens. Please hit that thumbs up button, give the video a like. The more people that like and comment on the video, well, it helps the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.